Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing today? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is Hollywood After Dark for the 18th of January, 2020. And I know today, to many of you, doesn't mean a damn thing, right? It really won't mean a thing to literally any of you. But to me, it signifies one key thing that I'm actually like. It's an odd one, but for me, it's interesting because today is the 12th anniversary of the release of Cloverfield. Weird, right? 1/18/08 was the original release date for Cloverfield. That movie is one of my all-time faves. I adore that movie, and I find it funny that every January on the 18th, I think back to the release of that movie and how it made me feel, and how it's been 12 damn years. And where the hell is my sequel, JJ? Where the hell is my sequel? You kept talking about it for a while. Sure, we got 10 Cloverfield Lane, 8 years after the fact, which was a good movie on its own. Then we had Cloverfield Paradox, which was a fun movie, even though all the Cloverfield elements were absolutely shoehorned in at the end. I even have the Blu-ray. I even have the damn Blu-ray of Cloverfield Paradox that Paramount sent me last year to review, and I watched the behind the scenes of it. And they had written that movie and shot that movie like it was going to be a made-for-TV sci-fi film or something like that. And then later on, they're just like, let's throw in Cloverfield. It's like no mention of Cloverfield, like no mention of the mythos. And I feel like Cloverfield is this absolute lost, right? It's this absolutely lost property that needs to be resurrected. It needs to be treated with the respect of the fan base. And I mean that literally. I do. I mean that like absolutely legitimately, like literally. When you look at the fan base of Cloverfield, it's there. And they've been waiting because they've been teased, and they've been teased and teased and teased and teased for 12 years. I mean, we knew that Cloverfield was an American take on a monster movie. That's what JJ wanted. That's what Matt Reeves and Drew Goddard put together. That's what they did. And then it came out, and a lot of people dove into the lore being all the ARG stuff that happened leading up to the release of the movie. And there's tons of YouTube videos out there absolutely diving into it, and it's a very cool thing. Then, of course, we've got nothing, no answers. 12 years, no answers. So they go, oh, let's take another movie, Valencia. Turn it into 10 Cloverfield Lane. We're gonna reshoot the ending. We're gonna change a couple little things that are just gonna be inserted into the movie, and we're gonna call it a Cloverfield film. Thank God that movie worked on its own right. Then, of course, they spent what was it? They spent I think 50 million on Cloverfield Paradox. Netflix bought it for 40 million. So they were able to recoup some of their losses on that one. And Netflix got a Super Bowl ad, and they dropped it that night, and everyone went to go see it. That's been 2 years. Where the hell is my Cloverfield? Where the hell is my Cloverfield 2? And now that JJ's over at Warner's with the release of Rise of Skywalker, it's I don't think we're going to see it for quite some time. That is, unless Paramount, at this point, I think Paramount just has the rights to it. I think maybe they've got right of first refusal or something. I have no idea, but I don't think that J.J. Abrams is going to take part of that that was that 200 million, 250. I forget how much money. It's an insane amount of cash to Warner's. I don't think he's going to sit there and develop a Cloverfield sequel inside of that. And I'm just, that's unfortunate to me, because I would absolutely love there to be more Cloverfield. But I just wanted to share that little tidbit from today because I just find it to be such a fascinating thing overall that it's been 12 years, and unfortunately it just is it's just not that I don't think we're gonna get it. I don't think we're gonna get that damn lucky. And speaking of not that lucky, we've got this little article coming in from Dark Horizons about Doolittle. Now, Doolittle came out this weekend. It's a $175 million movie from Universal starring Robert Downey Jr., his first movie post Avengers Endgame. And the movie's not doing well. It's got a B on CinemaScore. The critical review is in the dumpster. I believe last I saw on Rotten Tomatoes is around 13%. It could be more or less now. I'm not too sure. and audiences are going to give it about 30 million this weekend, which is not bad actually. But when Bad Boys for Life pulls in over 60, and it's an R-rated movie, not a Robert Downey Jr. led kids film, which you figure would do better, we start to look at the situation. So according to Dark Horizons here, they say that the worst parts of Doolittle were added in reshoots. And I really hate this kind of article, not to crap on Dark Horizons because it's not their fault, but when I am not a fan of the type of article is because reshoots are something that are meant to be done to fix, right? They're meant to be done to like fix something that you need. And there's such this negative connotation when it comes to reshoots that it ends up being a bigger problem, right? It ends up giving this perception of a bigger problem. Although if you read the article, it definitely shows us that there are some problems here. It says here that Doolittle's on track to be the first box office dud of the year. Terrible reviews and a quiet early box office combined with a whopping $175 million production budget suggests a costly flop. Now, part of the reason for the large budget has been the film's famously troubled production with extensive and costly reshoots. Now, the Wall Street Journal has done some story on those reshoots, and they are ultimately saying that they were aimed to craft a sillier movie more likely to appeal to younger moviegoers and overseas audiences. Now, let's be realistic here. This isn't about younger moviegoers. This is about overseas audiences. And this is one of the bigger problems that comes up with movies these days, with studio films, with tentpole films, because what they do, and they do this all the time, is they dumb movies down in order to have it be easily translatable across the globe, right? They dumb the movies down. They have dumb jokes, they have dumb dialogue, and we here in the States, we see it, but it's aimed for people overseas, which I think does them a massive disservice. This is for an overseas audience. They want that Chinese dollar. Now it says the aim was to possibly offset whatever domestic box office disappointment it might suffer by doing these reshoots, which include a scene in which Robert Downey Jr. sticks his arm up a dragon's butt to dislodge a skeleton, bunging it up, and ultimately getting a massive fart in his face as a reward. I probably should have prefaced that with a spoiler. I don't think you care. I definitely don't care about that. Maybe that's just my own privilege, but that's terrible, right? It's like, oh, they added a reshoot where, for one, a guy speaks to animals, so that's already crazy enough, and then two, he sticks his arms up a dragon's butt, right, and then pulls out a skeleton. All I'm saying is people who have a bad dragon fetish are definitely real jelly of that particular scene right there. Now it says here, in fact, the overall kiddie tone of the film was quite different from the original cut that Stephen Gaghan put in. And this is a dude who directed Syriana, right? So this guy does like hardcore dramas, and here he is doing a Dr. Dolittle movie. Like, it's just, what? It's like Eli Roth moving from Hostel Part 1 and Hostel Part 2 to the house with the clock on the walls, or whatever the hell it was called, that came out with Jack Black and Kate Blanchett last year, I think it was in maybe 2018. Like, that was an Eli Roth movie. Like, Eli Roth, torture porn guy, did a kids movie. Not to say they can't do it, but it's one of those weird moments. Anyway, it says here that after screening Mr. Gaghan's initial version of the movie, Universal was worried it wasn't lighthearted enough to connect with children and families around the globe, according to people familiar with the production. So the studio decided the movie needed more computer-generated animals and more laughs, the people said, and called in filmmakers and screenwriters with more experience in the genre. These included Chris McKay of the Lego Batman movie and Jonathan Liebsman of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, let me just say this. One, I like the Lego Batman movie, the first half of the film. The second half of that movie, it just ultimately falls apart, where it's just reference, pop culture reference, sight gag, dumb things that Batman says, because it falls apart in the last half of the movie. And TMNT, I enjoyed it, but again, it's not spectacular. So this is who they called in to fix Doolittle. Right? They called in people who don't have a tendency of really connecting with the audience in the way that really works, considering that TMNT franchise is dead. And, it's been 3 years since Lego Batman, and we have yet to get another Lego Batman. And in fact, Warner Brothers dropped the Lego license because of how bad the Lego Movie Part 2 did. So Dr. Dolittle killed itself with reshoots. It's a prime example as to why reshoots ultimately will end up hurting these movies, at least when they try to cram and shoehorn in things that kind of feel antithetical to the script at hand. And that's just sad. To be honest, it's really sad because this movie is going to go down as a big flop for Robert Downey Jr. when it appears that it's just the studio executives once again not knowing their head from their buttholes, or at least, well, a dragon's butthole. Now, according to this article here, this is what I just wanted to briefly touch on. It says here that Hank Azaria will no longer voice Apu. This has been an ongoing controversy for quite some time. A lot of people have been talking about this. A lot of people have been mad at Hank Azaria for Apu. They said Apu is, he's a racist character. It's a racist caricature, even though it's been around for over 30 years. And in the beginning, Hank Azaria has said that he was actually approached and heralded for having that kind of representation on screen. But as you know, the documentary, The Problem with Apu came out, and there being this big, massive social justice backlash against it, Azaria had said that he was okay with retiring from playing the character, and it appears now that they have finally done it. So it says here, after years of complaints from fans, Hank Azaria will no longer provide the voice of Apu on The Simpsons. For more than 30 seasons, the actor has provided the convenience store clerk with the character that plays into a number of Indian stereotypes, with fans taking issue with the character not only due to the stereotypes, but also as caricature has become so popular, while so few other representations of South Asian exist in popular media. The actor didn't specify what the future would hold for the character, if someone else would voice him, but he's stepping away from the role, saying, "All I know is I won't be doing the voice anymore unless there's some way to transition it or something," Azaria confirmed to Slash Film. And the thing with that, just retire the character at this point. Just retire the character. Apu Nahasapita Petalan. I just want to make sure I said that right. Apu Nahasapita Petalan has been a staple on The Simpsons since the beginning. Right, Azaria voicing the character has been a staple on the show since the beginning. If you're not going to use him in the voice, then you just need to retire the character. You know, when Marsha Hardy died, they retired Edna Krabappel. And also the woman who voiced Martin Prince passed away last year. I forget her name. I feel really bad about that. As far as I know, they've retired the character. It's basically at this point, like when the cast has been doing this for so long, it's okay to retire the character. I mean, if Nancy Cartwright or Julie Naver or Dan Castellaneta passed away, would you want to see them replace the voice actor? The answer to that is no. You would just find a way to end the show. And I think at this point, like Hank Azaria leaving the show or leaving that character is not enough maybe to kill it. But at this point, it might actually be better for Disney, not only in regards to PR, but just financials, to end the show, which they've renewed it, I think, for 2 more seasons, but to end the show and then just run it in syndication, right? Run it in syndication. But now that it's on Disney Plus, that's not going to happen. And I think that's going to kind of well up a lot. That's going to like take away a lot of money. One of the main reasons why Fox kept Simpsons around, this is a joke my friend and I would tell each other for the longest time, was that they were afraid to cancel The Simpsons because they were afraid to lose the money. The syndication rights alone, just around the world, generated, I can't even tell you how many hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars for this over 3 decades old franchise. And so it shows us that it's been long lasting. And so people are upset after 30 years. I would just tell those people just to shut it, go, look, don't watch the show other people out there do. Well, let's find a way to write the character to maybe more of a positive representation rather than just getting rid of it. Find a way to transition it. But again, there was that whole thing where they put out that little like 30-second clip of Lisa and Marge talking about a photo of Apu and more or less kind of looking at the audience and saying, "F you, we're not changing anything." And I think this is probably a contract negotiation from Azaria saying, "I will come back in to do this, but I'm not going to be voicing Apu." And that's probably where it's at. That's the saddest thing about it, to be fair, is that they're getting rid of it, unless they find a way to exit the character. I do think it's a bit of a slap in the face of longtime Simpsons fans. And while there is that running joke of like, what it is to be an ex-Simpson fan, like what season did you stop watching? The show still is extremely popular. It is still extremely profitable. And this kind of action, if not handled the right way, can run the risk of actually hurting the brand going forward. So I want to talk here about the Christopher Tolkien thing, because this is an interesting one that I might clip out and make its own video, because I think the topic is interesting enough. So yesterday, Christopher Tolkien, or the other day, I think it was yesterday, Christopher Tolkien, who is the last living son of J.R.R. Tolkien, died. And he was the editor and steward of Middle-earth. Now, this is an important role if you know anything about the Tolkien Estate and anything about how they've done the adaptations of Lord of the Rings and everything involved. I mean, it is drama. It is just extreme drama. They did that biopic of Tolkien last year with Nicholas Hoult. They shouldn't even have done the biopic. They should have just done a documentary about the making of Lord of the Rings and the drama of that whole estate. Like a whole documentary on Tolkien's life would be interesting, following it up with where things are now. But now, according to this, okay, so I just want to really read these two passages here in regards to what the article says about it. Anyway, it says here, so after J.R.R. Tolkien's death in 1973, Christopher Tolkien spent much of the rest of his life organizing, editing, and publishing what remained of his father's work. What remained turned out to be an absolute trove of wide-ranging material. His most prominent accomplishment was the publication of the Silmarillion in 1977, having assembled a massive tome of decades worth of drafts, notes, and when needs must his own written additions to flesh out certain tales. The book itself proved mildly controversial, with fans of The Lord of the Rings not especially happy with the prequel that was mostly semi-dry recitations of myth. The hardcore Tolkien wonks annoyed by certain choices and inconsistencies made in the editing process, and yet the book itself persists in the public imagination, buffered on by later editions, including the 1980 Unfinished Tales and the 12-volume History of Middle-earth. So the reason why that's important is because Tolkien himself, Christopher Tolkien, his entire life was dedicated to preserving what his father had created, right? To preserving that legacy, to preserving those stories and those characters in the world of Middle-earth. And I get that. And there was always there's always going to be this increasing attack from media, right? From media conglomerates that are going, this is popular. This is something that's well known. We want to adapt this into certain things, and then working the deal with them. Now it says here, in years later, Tolkien probably became best known for his reactions to the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings films, an attitude that might best be summed up as politely displeased. And hardcore Tolkien fans that's always an interesting conversation to have with them about the movies and the books. Some of them cannot separate the two, and oh my God, those get to some heated conversations. Anyways, if you think Star Wars conversations get heated, get someone who's a hardcore Tolkien fan drunk on like an 18-pack of Coors Light, and then go into this in-depth 3-hour conversation about how the movie sucks compared to the book. I've done that more than once. Anyway, so it says here, up into including reports that he was briefly estranged from one of his sons, Simon Tolkien, over his decision to support the films. Not entirely surprising, given the time and energy he devoted across his life to the more literary aspects of his father's work. He was reportedly unhappy with the various concessions the film made to increase the pacing and action for the eyes of modern viewers. Things got nasty, though, in the 2010s, that the Tolkien Estate sued Warner Brothers, spurred on, at least in part, by their discovery of the existence of something called Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring online slot game. Now, that is actually something I didn't know about until I read this article. I didn't know that Warner's had basically turned into Konami and licensed out, to a slot machine. Like, I mean, as much as I enjoy the movies, and I enjoy all six, and I enjoy the video games, and I like just the Middle Earth in general. Even I'm like, yeah, that's a step too far. That is a step too far. Like the microtransactions and was Shadow of Mordor or Shadow of War. Obviously, it's a bit too far. Now Tolkien dedicated much of his life to his father's legacy, and the fantasy universe consumed so much of his creative life. And while Middle Earth would persist regardless of what came after The Return of the King was published in 1955, Tolkien's work ensured fans of the first great fantasy world of the 20th century would never lack for new areas and angles to explore, new depths to immerse themselves ever more fully in. Every fan with a Quenya tattoo or an encyclopedia knowledge of the various Ainur, I'm probably mispronouncing that, owe him some debt of gratitude for his lifetime of service for their shared fantasy world. So why is this important? Well, for one, he held on till he was 95 years old, and that's awesome for him, right? So the world is lesser. The literary fantasy world is lesser as a result of Christopher Tolkien having passed 100%. But this is important for a couple of reasons. One, this guy was the dude who was like hardcore about the direction of it in media. And this is the guy who brokered, there was that brokering with Amazon. $250 million was paid to the Tolkien estate from Jeff Bezos that he personally negotiated in order to get the rights to do 5 seasons of a prequel series of The Lord of the Rings, the one that's currently getting ready to start shooting, or they might already be shooting it, that's going to be coming out in 2021 on Amazon. There's been a lot of movement in that world right now, and the deal that they came to, I'm pretty sure, was like Tolkien himself was going to be heavily involved in making sure that it did not violate canon and did not violate other things. There's a reason why this particular series is nothing to do with the Jackson films, which I think is personally a mistake. If you want my honest opinion, I think it's a big mistake to not set it in that kind of aesthetic. I really do think that. I think that they'd be better off trying to do that as a way to really kind of make themselves, I think, just to kind of like have cohesiveness, right? And I understand that there's like licensing rights and there's legalities and everything else, and I get all that, but I still feel like they should try to find a way to make it work. Like bring Weta in, if nothing else. Just make sure Weta is involved. But no, this is where things are now. Whoever's going to be in control of the estate next literally can do whatever they want with it, right? And Tolkien, being, the son of the man who birthed it all, he had a close connection. Will this new successor also have that close connection? Will we see Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring slot machine, right? Will that come back? Will that make a reality? Oh, we can license this out, make a lot more money in the process. I mean, is Jeff Bezos going to come on in now and try to, steamroll his way to get the rights to the film rights for the adaptation, or get the rights to the books in order to do a television show to keep the show going past 5 years? Now, that would be dope. That would be real dope. If they did that, I'd be totally on board with that. Is Warner Brothers going to now try to work their way back in order to be able to maybe get their hands in perpetuity on those rights in order to do more with Lord of the Rings? I don't know. But now we're looking at this like kind of like a gold rush for Lord of the Rings. And with this guy unfortunately having died, what happens next is going to determine not only the fate of the franchise, but the legacy of Tolkien and the Tolkien estate. And you guys might think that I'm being maybe a bit hyperbolic or I'm a bit over the top here, but no, there's a lot of money at play. When we're talking, the rumor for the Amazon show is up to $1 billion for 5 seasons, and that's including the $250 million that they paid out in order to get the rights. That's a lot of money at play, which means that Bezos is betting big on this because he wants it to be his Game of Thrones. So this is actually big news if you are a Tolkien fan. If not, then it doesn't mean anything to you. But I've been a fan of the books my whole life, and I've been a fan of the movies and the games and everything else my whole life. So I want to see what happens next, but I also want to see that it's handled with care and it's not absolutely fundamentally run into the ground, which is what would happen, let's say, if Disney stepped in and bought the rights to Lord of the Rings, which, if it's on the table, they just might. They may want to come in and get it. That could be something Iger's now going to be looking at if the rights go up for sale, if a bidding war begins. I wouldn't put it past Disney to pop up. But in the meantime, I think we're going to see some interesting stuff come from it. So I'll have to wait and see on that one. Anyway, this is an interesting one that popped up today. Apparently, people out there are selling Baby Yoda merch illegally, right? And there's Disney dropped the ball. I just want to start off by saying Disney dropped the ball when it came to Baby Yoda merch and The Mandalorian. I know that they did it in order to protect the integrity of the Baby Yoda review and to make sure that no one knew what it was and that it was a shock. And that did ultimately pay off. People were shocked, and Baby Yoda, for about 2 months now, has been an ongoing meme and one that won't seem to go away. So when I talk about like them screwing up, it's the fact that they still didn't have it ready by Christmas, which is the stupidest thing out there. They should have been like, okay, November 12th, the show premieres. by Black Friday, we're going to be pumping the store full of Baby Yoda merch, or at least by Christmas or something. But they probably didn't want to risk the designs getting out there and everything leaking, which is what tends to happen in these situations. So there's that. But anyway, Disney is now trying to stop some Etsy shops from selling Baby Yoda items. And this is where we're going to get into a weird place of licensing, because there's so much that happens on Etsy that is such a copyright violation. It's pretty funny to me. So it says here, a new report says that Disney is now targeting popular Etsy shops and sending takedown notices for Baby Yoda related items. A reporter at The Verge spoke with several people who sell items through Etsy, the independent online store famous for its vintage or handmade products, and learned that Disney has been sending takedown notices, which have been subsequently removed these sellers' listings for popular Baby Yoda related items like plushies, dolls, and dice bags. Removing the listing has caused practical headaches for sellers and buyers, with shipments being delayed as they've tried to reconcile orders in Etsy's system between new and old listings. Many of the listings that were removed were very popular, with one having more than 2,000 views and another one earning more than 100 to 200 views per day. I don't know if that's big for Etsy. I'm assuming that is, but think about this. People out there saw that there was a black market for Baby Yoda merch, right? There's a black market for like literally anything. But they saw that there was this hole. There was this big hole, and they wanted to fill it. So they started filling it. And you were seeing reports pop up, people buying Baby Yoda shirts. I've seen a bunch of Baby Yoda shirts that I don't think are officially licensed. I've seen a whole bunch of other Baby Yoda things floating around. People are making their own. My stepmom does, I think it's like needlepoint or crochet, whatever. I think it's crochet. I'm going to ask her if she can make me a Baby Yoda, a little plushie. Right? Like, I think that's gonna be pretty dope. And it's like, but that's not a violation, but people who are trying to sell this stuff, that's where we get into the violation. Now, sellers have drawn the ire of the Mouse House for using words like Star Wars, The Mandalorian, and Yoda in their product descriptions, words that are all copyrighted by the Walt Disney Company. It's easy to understand why the mega corporation wouldn't be thrilled with other people making money off of Disney's intellectual property. They have every legal right to issue these takedown notices, but also, like, come on, Disney, you're doing just fine. Give these indie sellers a bit of a break. Part of me wonders if they're just going to do this to avoid setting a potentially bad precedent, or if they are genuinely worried about independent sellers taking possible business away from their already overflowing coffers. Well, here's the deal with that. The thing is, Disney has to do it. What people don't realize about trademark law, all right, this is the if you don't use it, you lose it scenario. So they have to issue these notices. They have to protect their copyright, because if they don't, then they also run the risk of being challenged when they go to renew the copyright or renew the trademark and have it be taken away from them. They legally have to do this kind of stuff. Now, there's also the potential taking money out of their pockets, which is, again, that's a real thing. But they screwed up by not putting the merch out there. They screwed up by not doing this right off the bat. That's on them. And so going after the Etsy people just seems kind of dumb. But they have to do it. They have to. Now, it says here, not every Baby Yoda item has been removed from Etsy. The Verge points out that there are still thousands of listings on the site that blatantly sell Baby Yoda and Mandalorian merch. So if you don't have the patience or the interest in waiting on official merch to hit shelves, it appears that it's your best course of action to place an order now before these shops get taken down. Well, yeah. But the thing is, I don't feel bad for the shops getting taken down. They know that they're violating copyright. They know that they're violating copyright in many ways. They know this, but they don't care because they can make a couple $100 or whatever right off the bat. They get maybe a takedown notice, but Disney's not going to pursue it in court because it's not worth it for them to pursue it legally in court, you know. But they're going to maybe lose out on a little bit of something and come back around. And it is just the way the world works on that front. It sucks to be in that position, like in my position, to be a commentator. Because I'm like, I understand the legality of the situation. I understand why Disney's doing what it's doing. But at the same time, I'm like, why, is it that big of a deal? Like, is it like, but it's that if they don't do it, it's going to hurt them later on. So they just have to. And I wish people would stop selling unlicensed stuff. Now, I can't say I've never bought anything like that, because I have. I found some dubious listings on eBay that I've purchased before, or the knockoff concert t-shirts that are like a solid $15 cheaper than buying the officially licensed stuff that once you get inside the concert hall. So I mean, I've done all that. I'm not innocent. I'm not innocent, but at the same time, it's kind of like I'm not the one selling it. You know, if I was the one selling it, I think I'd realize that I'm breaking the law. But these people, they don't care. They know what they can get away with, and they're hoping they can sell more Baby Yoda merch, I think. But now Disney has no choice but to really fill the stores with Baby Yoda merch, which I think is something that a lot of people have just been absolutely waiting for. All right, so let's finish up right now with this quick one here. So apparently, The Rise of Skywalker is now the lowest rated Star Wars movie on Rotten Tomatoes. And Rotten Tomatoes means very little, but these headlines get a lot of clicks, right? These headlines get a lot of play. A lot of people out there, they like to look at Rotten Tomatoes as this kind of be all end all metric, and it's not. It really isn't. But in regards to Rise of Skywalker, it's only going to fuel the fire for a few people out there who are going to take it and run with it as this narrative that I'm just like, whatever with, right? So it says, after a month in theaters, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker now has the lowest percentage score in the franchise's live-action history on Rotten Tomatoes, saying here that it has its fair share of critics. Also, the film does have its defenders with an 86% score on Rotten Tomatoes. As far as the tomato meter is concerned, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker now has the lowest franchise ever with 52%. So that's low. That is pretty low. It actually is now coming in underneath Phantom Menace. But the audience score is where it's at, right? And this is where that argument comes down to. When you look at the Rotten Tomato score, you go, man, F the critics. They don't know what the hell's going on. I mean, F them. They don't know nothing, right? And then it's all like, but when it's a good score on a movie you like or whatever, it's a totally different view. Oh, well, the movie got a really high score on Rotten Tomatoes. Obviously, it's great. But then you look at the audience score. I think the audience score is more of a valid metric, but really the audience score is only reflective of verified purchases, right? Verified purchases. And that's one of the reasons why I think when you look at The Rise of Skywalker, it had the 86%. That 86% didn't really move. But there have been some people out there that have done mathematics on it that have proven that the 86% is more valid than not. And I have looked at it as being kind of a questionable thing. Like it hasn't gone up or gone down. It's been a month. It's gone a lot, but okay, whatever. And I don't know. I don't know, but it says here that while the Star Wars Clone Wars animated movie still technically has a lesser score with 18%, it's not that bad. If you watch the Star Wars Clone Wars chronological order, that the movie is like the third or fourth episode in to the watch, and it's really not as bad as that. It just people back then didn't know the genius of Dave Filoni and what he was bringing to the table, and that maybe wasn't the best first thing for them to see. Now it says that the Phantom Menace was the holder for the worst percentage score on the live action side with sometime at 53%. That spot has now been taken over by The Rise of Skywalker. And the Empire Strikes Back is still the franchise holder for the highest score with a 94%. I was really hoping that when the movie opened up and more critics got to see it that weren't involved in the press stuff, that it would jump to at least 60, but it dropping down to 52% is bad. I will fully admit my predictions across the board for The Rise of Skywalker were in no way accurate. I think I was just looking at this thing with like real rose-colored glasses, you know what I mean? And I can admit that. I was totally wrong, and that's fine. But the movie's not a 52%. It's better than that. It is better than that. Phantom Menace is still arguably a worse movie. It just goes to show you that these things are just it's like for entertainment purposes only is how you describe this, right? You describe Rotten Tomatoes like you describe going to a strip club. Yeah, she might act interested, but it's for entertainment purposes only. Oh, you go to a casino. You might make some money, but it's for entertainment purposes only. This is the same thing, but people out there live and die by these numbers for some unknown reason. And that's where we just happen to see the situation play out. So Rise of Skywalker right now has been it's been being removed from theaters a month into its release. It's been dropped from, I think, about 1,200 screens, which just makes sense. You got Bad Boys for Life, Doolittle. There's more movies coming on the horizon that are going to need that real estate. And if it's not pulling in those kind of numbers anymore, which has died off quite a bit, then across the billion, but it's probably not going to beat out the Last Jedi, which is still the biggest shame of the whole damn thing is that it didn't beat out the Last Jedi. The only thing I beat out The Last Jedi on is the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. That's really about it. So I don't know about you. I'm just glad the Skywalker saga is over and we can focus on what's important, which would be The Mandalorian Season 2. Okay, I can talk for about probably 10 minutes or so. All right. Let's see. Okay, so the fandom menace of the strip club. No, it kind of is Marlo. It really is. I mean, it is. They get you all worked up and they give you no payoff, right? Except you got to pay him if you want to. No, if you want to talk to him. Sorry, no, wait, that's John Campea. That's on Campea. Okay. I say that's why the user score on Metacritic is lower than The Rise of Skywalker. Is that why? Yeah. Well, because on the Metacritic, it doesn't require valid purchase, and at this point, it's been almost a year since they've done that, and they said they were going to open. I don't know if they've opened it up to like Regal and AMC, but like in order for the verified user score to work or to be a part of that, you have to purchase through Fandango, which really limits the marketplace, and like people who care about that, who care like where their voice kind of gets access to it. It goes to show that that's what's going on. And I know this is all dumb stuff. I should look at The Rise of Skywalker. Yeah. That 86% hasn't budged. Yeah, I know it hasn't budged yet. I get that. It's one of those things where it's like, I'd have to go and like really do the math, and I'm not going to because I'm just way too lazy. Let's see. Rotten Tomatoes is worthless to me. Yeah, no, it is. It is. I only use it again. I only bring it up as literally just a tool, as just a metric to look at, something to discuss. I don't put any value into it one way or the other. It's just like, but it's something people look at, so you kind of have to use it. And I'm not a big fan. Like I criticize it all the time, but then I'll talk about it, and I get people going like, "But you hate Rotten Tomatoes." I'm like, I do hate Rotten Tomatoes, but this is something that people look at, and so like I have to bring it up as a piece of information. For one, I need content. Two, I need content. And three, it's something people look at and they put value in. So I have to also at least give it some form of value. Let's see here. TLJ was worse. Yeah, it was. My girlfriend's going to see The Rise of Skywalker tomorrow with her friend, and she hasn't seen The Last Jedi because I talked her out of it like 2 years ago. And so she was just watching it a little bit ago. And I'm like, how you like it? She's like, it's okay. I walked in at the Yoda scene. I'm like, all right, I can watch this part. There are parts of that movie that I really like. There are. Overall, no. But I think at this point, I'm just glad that the Skywalker saga is done. I'm just happy that it's over with. I'm happy that it's done. And I can move on with my damn life. Let's see here. Enderhaven says, I really can't relate with thinking The Rise of Skywalker is worse than The Phantom Menace. I love episode 3, but the other prequels are pretty bad. Still better than The Last Jedi. That's true. I would say that what sort do I want to use here? I would say that Attack of the Clones is a lot better now. Like if you go and you watch Attack of the Clones and you're a fan of the Clone Wars animated show, it's a lot better of a movie. You can the older I got, because it's been like 17 years. The older I got, or almost 18 years in May, but like I've been able to kind of look at it through different lens, right? So like give you an example. Like this morning, my daughter grabbed the remote and while we were watching Disney Plus and like just went over and turned on Parent Trap of all things. 1961 movie. I haven't seen it well over 20 years, but I watched that movie a lot as a kid, right? A lot. I love Parent Trap. Watched the whole movie with her this morning. I laughed my ass off all the way through because I got all the other things that I missed as a kid. Right. I got all the little nuances, the little things like that I missed as a kid that were in the movie. And I think, again, also looking at how the Phantom Menace or the Attack of the Clones was and what Lucas was trying to say politically, now that I have a better understanding of it, it made more sense to me. That's how I viewed it, at least. Let's see here. Okay. Tim Pool says that Watchmen is canceled because it's woke. No, yeah, I know. I saw that video too. He says it got canceled because it's woke, but then he also admits that he never watched a full episode or watched the whole series. So in regards to that, anything Tim Pool says is trash. Let's see here. Did I hear that Hank Azaria is going to stop voicing Apu? Yeah, we talked about that a while back. Let's see here. You're about to watch episode 50 of what? I'm not too sure of what you're watching episode 50 of. Tim Pool's starting to remind me of a liberal version of Alex Jones, except he's not a liberal, so don't even try. Let's see. Attack of the Clones is still pretty bad, but I can at least watch the last act, but the rest was mad. I liked it. It grew on me quite a bit. It grew on me quite a bit over the years. I still have a lot of trouble with the Phantom Menace, but I enjoy the Attack of the Clones, and I also think it's Revenge of the Sith it's a fun movie. I don't even care. Lunith here says, I don't want a Disney Lord of the Rings. You don't want a Disney anything, Lunith. You don't want a Disney anything, and I get that. I don't think that okay, let's see. This is what I'm talking about. Right? Like I won't. This is when we're talking about Lord of the Rings, and Lunith says here, I won't be watching it because of the black actors. Like, I appreciate your racism in this case. I do. I appreciate your racism because it is racism. You won't watch something because a person of a certain color is in it. That's racism. Or if you want to just downgrade it a little bit, fine. We could call it discriminatory or bigoted. Either way, that is not a good thing to say. I understand where you're coming from, right? But I disagree fundamentally with it. I disagree. You got to give them the world is different than it was when Tolkien wrote the books. You're never going to get a straight one-to-one adaptation. So they are going to be doing things that are going to be slightly different, but it doesn't matter. I was watching The Witcher, and tons of people from different races in The Witcher never once cared, never once gave a crap, not once, didn't care, because I had fun watching the show. These are adaptations. Adaptations are never going to be a one-to-one representation. But when you sit there and say, I'm not going to watch something because it has black people in it or black actors, it's like, come on, dude. Like, come on, man. You got to move past that shit. Like, the world is not literally black and white. It's pretty gray. There's a lot of gray out there, and you do yourself a disservice as a fan of entertainment by holding yourself back from experiencing things because the person that you don't think should be in a role is in a role. Like, I don't know. I'm older now. I'm past that shit. I'm just past that shit. I just don't give a shit anymore, man. I really don't. So, all right, let's take a look here. No, actually, Spectacular Lunith is not trolling. He's in my Discord. He's a nice guy, but he's not trolling. He is not trolling. McFreezy here says, PT better than OT. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, that's what kind of take is that, sir? Let's see. Actually, like the Clone Wars, I didn't know was considered bad Star Wars. Oh yeah, no, people, yeah. It's considered good Star Wars now, but you got to go back 12 years to 2008 when it came out, right? You got to go back to August 2008 when that movie dropped, and it was not well received. I actually got in trouble with my boss because I recommended we get it. I was all like, we got to get Star Wars Clone Wars. It's going to be such a big movie, man. And he's all like, I don't think so. And I'm like, no. You got to trust me on this one. It's an animated Star Wars movie. It can't go wrong. And then we got it. And I'm all like, I'm in trouble. Worked out all right. Let's see. The original trilogy gives you a taste of Star Wars. Prequel trilogy gives you the universe. Okay. Now that's a decent enough argument. I give him credit on that. It's a decent enough argument. Let's see here. Thoughts on the Tremors movies? I love them, man. I know there's apparently 2 more that I haven't seen. I've seen 1 through 4. Apparently there's more that I haven't seen. So, Alice Eve or Margot Robbie? Ooh, I'm going to go with Alice Eve. As much as I like Margot Robbie, Alice Eve is Alice Eve. Anyway, let's see here. You're surprised Japan has official Baby Yoda stickers? Interesting. Well, the sticker's one thing. So let's see. Spawn, the movie no one liked, where they gave a black character be played by a white actor. Which one was that? Which actor? I've seen Spawn, and yeah, no one liked that movie. The soundtrack was great. It introduced me to Sneaker Pimps, which is awesome. Well, also there's a song on there that starts off by going like, "Hail!" No, that's Tenacious D. Yeah, I remember. There's Spawn. That was a fun movie. All right, let's see. Yo, Jordan here says, I'll watch Lord of the Rings. Who's ever starring in it? That's right. Daisy Ridley or Felicity Jones? I'm going to go with Daisy Ridley. I know that's a hot take, but she's, I've heard interviews with her, and like, you can tell she swears like a sailor. And I don't know why I like that. Just, You know, Felicity kind of comes across as a bit posh, which isn't bad. But sometimes you just want like, you just want, you know, you're okay with a woman calling you a cunt, right? Like you're just okay with it. It's just fine. It's fine with me. Thoughts on The Lighthouse? I haven't seen it. See, that's actually one of the reasons why I want to do the new show as being more of like a 45, 50-minute thing. It may be less than that. We're talking for a few minutes, but that's fine. I don't watch a lot of movies, and that's something I realized yesterday. I'm not watching movies. I'm really not. I'm spending more time chasing the news. So if I dedicate like a half hour to doing a live show and then maybe talk to you guys a little bit afterward, it gives me a bit more time to work on some other stuff, to watch some more movies. And that way I'm not just like trolling. I can do like 4 or 5 stories, be done with it real quick, and then have it be out there. And that's what I want to do. Let's see. There's just something about Daisy Ridley. It's true. Olivia Wilde or ScarJo. Oh, dude, it's all about ScarJo. Straight up, all about ScarJo. So I don't get me wrong. I like Olivia Wilde. I have, but it's I've just Scarlett Johansson has always been crazy. It's crazy. It's been 25 years since the first Bad Boys film came out. Yep. Definitely, man. I'm surprised at that. So anyway, okay, guys. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. I try to keep these a bit on the short side. I'll be back probably tomorrow with more news, if not on Monday, because Sundays are traditionally slow. And then tomorrow I'm working on the box office aftermath videos for both Bad Boys and Doolittle. I'm gonna try to get back into doing those on Sundays because I thought those are kind of fun videos. And again, if there's topics you want me to cover, like just generalized topics about certain things, I kind of want to get into doing just like a video where I want to do a video. I might do it today about why I think Netflix should ditch binging culture in 2020. And I think it's an interesting subject to discuss. I want to talk about it. So I figure I could do that. Maybe 1 or 2 of these clips might pop up on the channel today just to kind of like ease people into the show. But as always, you guys can leave your comments. You guys can find me on the Discord. There will be a link in the video description once I get it updated. If not, any other videos got it. And I will talk to you all later. Thank you so much for coming on in. Have yourself a great day, guys. And I'll see you all later.